Good afternoon. I'm David Wendell with BushcraftOnFire, and I'd like to welcome you to another video today. Today we're going to be talking about making wilderness buttons out of a couple different objects in the bush. So let's get started right away. Today we're going to be working with three materials. The first material is a piece of oak. I just picked up a little piece of an oak branch. We also have a piece of antler, and we're going to try that. And then I'm going to show you a unique way to make a button with some rawhide. First thing we're going to do is work with our piece of oak. Now what I'm going to do before I do anything else is to begin to skin this down. Just take the outer skin off, and that should only take a minute or two. And once we get that skin off, we're actually going to form this into a button. So be right back with you as I... Alright, now we've got that shaved, and I'm going to just take a little bit off of here to trim this up nice. Alright, so I've got a nice little piece of oak, and that's trimmed well. Everything is good with it. The skin is off. One of the reasons you want to take that bark off is because it will rot over time, and you don't want that to happen with your button. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take out my awl. Now the process on all the materials is going to be pretty much the same, and I'm going to just drill 2 holes in the end of this piece of wood. Now a lot of people may go ahead and cut their button out first and then drill the hole second. I find it's a little bit easier if I drill the hole first. That way I have the hole already in there, and all I have to do is clean it out. And I'm going to drill 2 holes in here, one on either side of the core of the wood, and that'll let us attach this to our clothing. If you want to do it and cut the button first and then drill the hole, that's okay too, and either way will work just as well. Again, the reason I do this, I have a handle on here so it's easier to work with. Alright, the next thing I'm going to do is get out my saw, and I'm just going to cut my button off. I'll start right here. There's a little nick in the wood, and we'll just go ahead and cut that button right off. And again, this is a piece of oak. This probably won't last as long as an antler would or a piece of rawhide, but it will certainly suffice. It's about a 3-minute job to make a button out of a piece of oak, so it's not anything that's very difficult, and it makes a nice little button that you can sew on your clothing and utilize. So there we go. We've got that button cut off. I'm going to get through the back here. Got that button cut off, and now what we'll do is go back and clean this up just a little bit. Take and cut this little point off of here and go back with our awl, and we'll make sure that that hole is all the way through that we made before. Now if you're going to do a hole in your button and it's not on the stick, I recommend you put it on a bearing block, something that will cut it. Don't just do it in your hand to go through, because what you're going to do is go through your hand, and that's a bad thing. Alright, I went and broke the first one because it was the holes are too close to each other, and it actually just made one big hole, so I cut a second one. But you can see now we've got a place to put our needle in, to stitch, and we can go back and forth with our easy awl. An easy way to make a quick button in the bush. Now we're going to do the same thing with something that's a little more substantial, and that's a piece of antler. I just picked up this piece of antler when I was in Canada, and what we're going to do is exactly the same thing. We'll start by boring our holes, and we're going to bore them just a little bit further apart here so we don't make a mistake again. And bore our holes right through the antler, bore our hole through the other side, and then we're going to go ahead and cut that off. Now I'm making these buttons about, I guess, 1/4 of an inch thick. You can make them any thickness that you want or need, but 1/4 of an inch thick will work just fine. This SAK, the Swiss Army knife saw blade, does a really good job at cutting through bone, through antler, through wood. And you want to keep your hand out of the way so you don't cut through that too, because it'll do that. So let me get through this a little bit and we'll be back. Alright, there we go. We got the antler off. And we'll just trim that up a wee little bit. Nothing like sloppy workmanship out there in the bush. And I'm going to do this on my block so I don't get cut. Trim that up a little bit. Then we'll go back and get the awl out. And we'll go through that hole one more time just to make sure that we have the hole nice and bored out. And there we go. A button made out of an antler. That's a nice little button. It'll last a long time for you. And it's strong. This will repair buttons on your clothes. And again, you can make these any size you want. You can make buttons this big, or you can just make small little buttons. You can see that the antler button is quite a bit bigger than the wooden button.